Hello and welcome to Chartbusters. Well, another day the market hits a record high. We're sitting with gains of around 35 points odd, but pretty good, particularly looking at the mid-cap index that continues to outperform. It's up close to around 0.5%. A few stocks from the Nifty that have done well in the last few minutes. Well, HDFC Life has moved higher and Dr. Reddy's as well. That one as well has seen a bit of an uptick. So, Mangalam, it's a good start, but I think you're tracking the pizzas, you're tracking the biryani, and over the last few days, you've been telling us you're biting into that burger.
That's all I'm doing, Nigel. And you know, there's a test match which is on right now. The markets are playing more like T20. We've been talking about the burger, but look at the pizza maker. Two days, everyone was talking burger. Then the Pizza King said, okay, no Pizza King. We will go ahead and launch a biryani. And that impact is close to around 190 rupees. The biryanis are for 165. So if you're in Gurgaon, you buy the stock in the morning. By lunchtime, you've made 190 rupees. Go ahead and order that biryani. So you can have your biryani and eat it too.
And what about the biryani? What are they calling it?
They're calling it Ekdam. All right, but Ekdam is the word that you can use for the Indian markets as well. The markets effortlessly rallying to record highs on a daily basis. In a bid to understand this phenomenon, Lata Venkatesh connected with Venkatesh Sanjeevi, the senior investment manager of Pictet Indian Equities Fund, to talk about the flows coming in to emerging markets, especially India.
I must say we are fairly positive on Indian equities at this point. And let me try and give a few thoughts around this. Maybe a top-down view first, in terms of what's happening around the world, the entire emerging market versus developed market sort of a discussion. What we've seen is that emerging market growth has picked up quite strongly post-COVID especially. And this has been led especially by Asia. And within Asia, China has been the strong driver here. India has also been quite strong of late. And the good news is that the second spike of COVID, which a lot of people expected post a festive season, has not happened. So India, which is great news, and India also seems to be on a right path. So the growth for emerging markets seems to be better placed compared to the developed market space. Valuations for emerging markets are much cheaper than the developed market side, and as we all know, the liquidity situation is also quite comfortable. So on all these parameters, growth, valuation, and liquidity, emerging markets seem to be well placed. And our own house view is that we are positive on emerging market for the next 5 years or so. Coming to India specifically, yes, you mentioned stocks have moved up a bit. Valuations seem fairly full on a near-term basis. But I think we should take a step back and look at it from a slightly longer-term perspective. India had multiple speed breakers the last 3 or 4 years, if I may say. We had demonetization, then we had the GST implementation, we had the IL&FS crisis, and then, of course, COVID. All this has led to earnings growth being subdued for a while now. And throughout this period, the government has continued with its sort of reform agenda. A lot of reform measures have been announced. At the same time, the RBI is doing its bit in keeping the rates accommodative. If inflation behaves itself, I think the RBI would continue its support on the interest rate side as well. Our external side looks good. Our forex reserves at all-time high. The foreign flows continue. As long as oil remains range-bound, which it seems to be doing, which is still a manageable sort of situation to be in. So even the external side seems to be falling in place. The markets seem to be pricing in, let's say, FY22 at the moment. The question is what's beyond that, and that's probably going to drive the next leg of market. And if the earnings growth continue for FY23 and beyond, I think that's where the upside for the markets could come from.
Okay. Let me drill down to a little bit of specifics. You know, I was looking at the last available portfolio of yours, and you have a lot of nifty stocks. I mean, you have Infosys, HDFC Bank, HCL Tech, Kotak Bank, Maruti, HDFC Twins, the insurance company as well. Do you think now you should trawl for value in the mid-caps?
Yeah, I mean, we don't start off saying that we need a certain allocation in mid-cap or large cap. We look for good ideas and good companies. If they are in the Nifty, so be it. If they are outside the Nifty, so be it. We have a fair number of stocks already in the portfolio which are not in the Nifty and so to say the mid-cap bucket. We also have a couple of stocks which are India business, say listed in the US, like Make My Trip. So I think we look at the entire spectrum and see where the upside potential looks good.
Okay, but where would you look for pockets where valuation still exists? Look at the way we're looking at Burger King and the QSR space. They're all trading at 60 times, 65 times on listing itself. So, I mean, would you avoid consumer, or do you think it is still good to go because it has growth?
No, again, valuation needs to be seen in the context of growth, and needs to be seen in the context of sustainable growth, not just near-term growth. We have seen a lot of companies in the staples side trade at very high valuations for a long period of time because the growth outlook is much better. So I don't want to come to a conclusion that the stocks at high multiples should be avoided at any cost.
Okay.
We have to look at each stock from the growth outlook and the return ratios which they offer.
Okay. Would you like commodity stocks now? That seems to be another rage. Steel stocks doing so well. In fact, they're the best performers, if you look at it, say, year to date or even year on year.
Yeah, absolutely. Commodities have had a great run, and there have been multiple reasons for it. Of course, China, like I mentioned some time ago, has rebounded pretty strongly post COVID, and across all parameters, infrastructure, real estate, auto sales, China is back to pre-COVID levels, and that of course has led to a demand on all the commodities around there. Also, the weakish sort of USD outlook also bears on commodities. And there have been some specific commodities like iron ore, which had some supply side issues in Latin America as well. So all of this seems to have played very nicely into commodities space, and the momentum, as you mentioned, looks strong right now. But I would also think about the impact all this could have on the real economy at some point if this translates into higher inflation. I think that is something we should keep an eye out for.
Okay. So how would you play this fear? Are you going to avoid some kinds of stocks?
Well, we have a pretty simple sort of philosophy, and we don't start with saying we would avoid a particular stock for valuation purpose. Ideally, each stock, we pick stocks on a bottom-up basis, and we spend our time to research the company, to meet the management, to understand its business. And wherever we feel that the stock offers a good risk and reward, we are happy to hold on to it and for the very long period of time.
Now, of course, you would do that. But to help our viewers gain something from your fund of knowledge, this year was the pharma theme. It was also the steel theme, 2020. Where would you look for excellent earnings growth in 2021?
No, in fact, 2020 has been multiple themes, not just pharma, and there have been different points in time where different things have worked out. Starting with let's say the pharma and the consumer names initially, and then when the real economy, the domestic economy picked up, financials started doing quite well. So there have been multiple the themes which are played out. So coming back to earnings growth, I would think earnings growth outlook is present across the sectors, and the real question is FY22 is probably priced in across most stocks.
Okay.
Where do we see earnings growth beyond that? And if our top-down picture in terms of emerging markets being favorable, in terms of growth for emerging markets picking up, and India coming off a fairly long period of subdued growth, we could potentially see growth across all sectors. I mean, you can take the example of Maruti. The sales this year is one of the lowest it's had in many years. So it doesn't have to stop with FY22 alone. The growth can continue for a medium term. So I think that sort of a thesis can play out across sectors where growth momentum could continue longer.
Okay, actually, just before this, I did an Outlook 2021 with economists. And of course, most of them are expecting that this year the GDP is whatever, -7, -8. Next year, it will be probably +10, +11. That will still bring the GDP only to the March 31st, 2020 level. But thereafter, there are divergent views on whether it will be a 6% GDP growth or a 5% GDP growth. What are you going with? Are you fairly confident that we are going to see earnings growth? And if yes, where?
Right. So it's again very difficult to predict what's going to be the GDP growth 2 years from now. The construct is this: that we expect emerging markets to grow strongly, to outperform the growth in developed markets. The sort of base is being set, and if that plays out, that should play out across all sectors, across all domestic sectors, and doesn't have to be restricted to any one sector alone.
Okay, okay. What about real estate? I mean, that has had a very long, lean patch. We've seen some big rallies in some stocks, but have you picked any or will you pick any?
Yes, I mean, what you're saying is absolutely right. And real estate has seen a very, very long period of consolidation. And we had a number of reforms as well here. The RERA came in and the existing players have become stronger. But we're not restricting our real estate ideas to just to residential real estate. There are also commercial real estate opportunities. One of our holdings is Embassy REIT, which is a commercial offering. Where if this theme of outsourcing to India, more opportunities for grade A developers in India picks up, some of these companies stand to benefit.
Okay. Which part of finance do you like? I mean, you already have private banks, so something other than that. That's an easy answer.
Yeah, financial services has been a sector where we've been overweight for a fairly long period of time. And the sector provides plenty of opportunities, be it banks, be it non-banks, be it life insurance companies, be it non-life insurance companies, asset managers, exchangers. So plenty of ideas. The long-term opportunity is pretty much there, and all of us know that the penetration levels can go up. And the sector has a lot of competent, highly qualified management teams operating. So this sector where we find plenty of opportunities, and a sector we've been happy to be overweight for a long period of time.
Okay, got that. Venkatesh, a more general question which investors have as we exit 2020 and go into 2021. Does it feel like we are already overstretched and we will go through a period of maybe consolidation and peak off? Or does this feel like a 2003 moment when we could have a long secular run?
Lata, this is very difficult to sort of say what, going back, I mean, history, it doesn't have to necessarily repeat the same way. I see a lot of people comparing the current cycle with 2003, that period, but it's very difficult to say how things will pan out. And one thing I would look out for in India, just comparing with other countries around, is the development of the internet ecosystem in terms of listed companies. I mean, we're seeing a lot of disruptive companies come out in US, in China, creating a lot of value for shareholders. Yes. In India, we don't have that many sort of the opportunities for public money to be invested. Most of it lies in the private space.
That's right.
We'll have to see how that theme sort of plays out for the next year. If we have more opportunities for public money to invest in some of the leading digital internet disruptors, which are existing in India.